Hi, I'm Sam Gillespie,
Hello, I'm Andrew Saul.
and welcome to I'm Just Not That Into Interactive Entertainment Experiences.
That is so low.
Hello and welcome to I'm Just Not That Into Games. How is it going?
It's going good. Aren't you going to tell me something?
Oh yeah, no, that's right. That's right. I keep forgetting who does what in this show. All right, so let's get straight into the game for this week.
I like how you called it a show.
It's a show. It's a show now, everyone. Thank you for our kind listeners to put up with us. All right, so the game that I'm recommending this week is the Stanley Parable.
Oh my God!
Oh, what's
Really? We're going to play the Stanley Parable.
the Stanley Parable? What,
Okay, well, tell me about the Stanley Parable.
you know
then,
anything
Sam.
about the Stanley Parable?
Yes, I know a little bit of the Stanley
Okay,
Parable.
well, I'll give you the brief rundown. As you can see, it's quite...
Because you might not remember, because we were pretty drunk at the time, but quite a few months ago, we talked about this, though I don't remember much about it because I was drunk as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't condone alcoholism on this channel.
No, of course not.
All right, so the Stanley Parable is an experimental storytelling game that explores the idea of choice in games through humor. You play as employee number 427, Stanley, a regular office worker. One day, while he's hard at work, he notices that everyone else has vanished, so he goes to investigate. From there, the narrative branches out depending on your actions, with multiple different endings. The game is quite short, meaning that once you finish the game, you can go back to the start and play along a different fork along a plot. The game's quite famous for its humor, its self-awareness, and its meta-commentary about games. It pokes fun at all video games as much as it is praising them. I don't want to go too much into what else is in the game, because it's one that sort of you have to experience and just, give it a go. There's not a lot to it, but what's there is pretty good.
It makes commentary about video games.
Yeah, it's a meta game.
Which is funny.
Yeah, because it does it in a funny way. It tells jokes about it.
Yeah, okay. Humor in a game.
Yeah,
There
it
you go.
works. I mean, you enjoyed the humor elements of Portal, didn't you?
You know what? I did.
Yeah.
I did. I did, but I don't feel like that was game humor. I feel like that was just straight up humor.
Right. Well, it's a game that pokes fun with a lot of game elements, as well as games themselves, and I guess the idea of choice.
Is this a gamer's game?
Not really. I'd say you need to play a few games. You have to have played a few games to get a sense of what the game's about. But I don't think you need to be a gamer to really appreciate. There's some jokes that might go over the head of the average person who isn't a gamer, but I still think there's not a lot there that you'd enjoy, regardless.
Have I played enough games?
Yes.
Okay, done.
All right, let's get into it. So, Andy, did you find your way out of the broom closet?
The broom closet. What a good joke.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
Sam, this could be a really short podcast
Why?
because I have one very clear opinion of this game.
Oh, that you hate it naturally because you hate everything and you try and destroy my entire life?
You're just setting things up. Sam, I loved this game. I loved everything about it. I have nothing negative to say about this game.
That warms my heart.
Yeah, well, it warms your heart, but also because I feel like you've cheated. I feel like you've cheated me.
What do you mean?
Well, you know what I mean, because this isn't a game. The Stanley
Oh,
Parable is not a game, Sam.
Right, sure.
You've given me something which is not a game.
Okay. Done.
That
I'm not going to argue that. It's totally... Okay, so there's been a bit of a pushback from these walking simulator style games, as they've been called. You walk around, there's some dialogue, some exposition. It's all very minor in terms of gameplay, or basically non-existent. And some people say they're not games, and some people say they're entertainment. And you made the case in Papers, Please that it was an interactive entertainment experience.
Yes.
I would say this is an interactive entertainment experience.
Totally. I'm totally with you on that. So I thought Papers, as you said, I thought Papers, Please wasn't really a game, but at its core, I thought Papers, Please was mostly a game, probably, right? Mm-hmm. This one, it just goes to it's going straight to, we're not a game, we're this interactive movie, and that's what it is, and that's what we are.
Totally.
But that's not bad, because it's excellent. It's excellent in every way something could be excellent, it's excellent in.
That sounds pretty excellent.
Look, I don't go out of my way in these podcasts to find fault in games. No, I don't.
Sure.
I don't. No, I don't. And, I'm just giving an objective point of view. And
totally objective.
Yes, that's right. It's how I feel, which
Yeah, yeah.
is subjective when you think
Objectively subjective. We'll go with that.
Objectively
We'll
subjective,
call
right?
it
So
that.
I don't come in with an agenda. Okay.
I think the title of the podcast would disagree with you.
Okay. So anyway, the fact is, any faults that I find just bubble up as I'm playing, as I'm experiencing whatever I'm supposed to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what comes out, right? There's nothing that bubbled up here at all from the Stanley Parable. It's also tight, it's interesting, it's funny, but not to the point where I'm having to put together a massive conspiracy story. It's just intriguing because I really want to see what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
Look, man, you have to repeat certain parts of it over and over again, but the game keeps coming back to you and acknowledging that you're repeating it again and does little changes to make it tiny little changes to make a new experience, but it is a new experience.
Yep.
I mean, the game made fun of the banality of running a featureless loop of corridors over and over again whilst making me run a featureless loop of corridors over and over again.
A line and a bit of music was all it needs, right? Just to follow this line.
And they did it on several occasions. And I loved it. I loved it. One stage, I had my head down following a circle they had literally drawn on the floor and told me to walk around and follow. And I was laughing and enjoying myself following a circle on the floor like some kind of demented chicken. Like, how did they do that? I don't know.
It's the writing, right?
It's the writing. So the writing is just so dense. It reminds me of TV shows like Yes, Minister or Seinfeld. You can clearly see the time and effort that's been put into making this entertaining at every single moment. Mm-hmm. They've done that by focusing on what I love, the narration, and to a lesser extent, the messaging in the actual environment, like text on the whiteboard or the images on the computer monitors. Mm-hmm. And they've done this at the expense of the graphics and longevity of play. If ever there was an example of how you achieve greatness, this is it. Mm-hmm. You become successful by doubling down on your strengths, not by improving your weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly. They knew they couldn't deliver a 10-hour, 20-hour long experience, but what they said was every minute of your playtime is just going to be good.
And it was, and it so was. Every minute of my playtime felt like it had been written just for that moment. That's another thing too. The writing, it feels like my entire experience, even though I'm making different choices, was incredibly scripted down to the last second just for me. Just for Andrew Saul, who's playing a game. It was scripted just for me.
Yep.
And I kept thinking that would fall apart. I kept thinking that, they can't keep this up. This is way too much writing. This is way too much work. It's going to get samey. It's going to break. Never broke. Never broke. The entire time I was playing it, never broke. Yeah, mate, I've had a fair chunk of time reading all the whiteboards in the meeting room, as well as watching all the slides. And honestly, I'm a huge Dilbert fan. That was up there with the best Dilbert comics I've ever read. Yep. And it was all on point. Like, everything was on point. I've worked in corporate places. It's so on point. It's so incredibly on point to exactly what that life is, what that sort of organizations like that are. Yeah, man, it's just crazy.
Yeah. I found that I actually played the Stanley Parable before it came out as an official release. It was actually originally a mod for Half-Life 2, and they had like a couple of simple little... The story arcs that you saw inside the game kind of existed, but they weren't very well fleshed out. And that was a really very popular mod. But yeah, they took that solid core of that mod, and then they just did something amazing with it, where they just focused on every little bit of that just wasn't right, and they just massaged it to be interesting. They added a couple of cheats in to make it so that the maps changed their layout a little bit each time. So even though you're doing that same little opening bit where you go up and go down the corridor, it still feels different each time, and it just pays off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But there is something interesting that came out of this for me. Okay. So in amidst this love fest about the Stanley Parable, and this isn't a negative aspect at all, but it's just, when you first sold this game to me, you talked about that the game had a lot of parodies about video games in it,
right,
and about the video game culture. Now, I'm not a gamer, so if a lot of these parodies were subtle enough, they would have gone over my head. but I did see the references they were making. I just didn't think they were necessarily just about games.
No, I mean, yeah, I think there's something fundamentally a bit more psychological there, right? Like, it's tapping into some of the things that, some of the reasons why we play games. It's tapping into that urge. Like, did you get to the bit where you have to play the baby game?
No, I didn't. No.
There's basically a bit in there where he's like, oh, you're sick of playing this game, Stanley Parable, and he takes you outside of the game into a different game where you have to press a button to stop a baby from falling into the water. And he's just like, yeah, play this for 2 hours. Off you go. And I guess a lot of it is all about the idea of at the heart of any game is choice, right? And so the one gameplay element that they actually have inside the game is making a couple of decisions. That's it, right? Like, you can always choose to go down left or down right that time. You can go try and see what happens if you do that. That's the only gameplay element that they have. And they just show that sometimes all you need is one, and if you just nail that, you can get it right. And then all of those choice-based things that you say that... People say that games give you infinite choice. They never do. They never give you anywhere near that element of real choice involved in it, because there's always best paths or worst paths or optimized plays or things like that. But in Stanley Parable, they're all equal choices, and they all give you completely different stories and completely different flexibility. So, as to whether or not it exists as a parody of video games, I think it's a bit more nuanced than that. But I think that they're definitely tapping into that in some ways, and in some of those parts more than others.
Yeah, the whole notion of the player Stanley not having control, and I sort of recognize that as a trope for video game designers. The player's supposed to be the central of the story. They're supposed to be able to change the world, change themselves. But then it just so neatly matched with the lack of control you have over your own life normally, and the lack of control you would normally have in any kind of job, especially the corporate drone kind of job that Stanley finds himself in.
Yep.
So for me, it was like, and if it had been fanboy stuff, like gamer fanboy, like,
it wouldn't have been as interesting, right?
Look at mushrooms, and that's funny because of Mario. I would have been like, I'm over. I'm done with this. But I was never done.
No.
So there you go.
Well, if you haven't found all the endings, so I guess you got to go back and finish it. I might end up playing this again. I would definitely enjoy playing this again. But again, not a game. No, not a game. Unless you consider that interactive entertainment experiences are just a small fraction of the big box of things that we call games.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, then I guess that's that.
Okay. Guess what's coming up?
What's that?
Music.
Oh, that's new.
A jealous man can't get his way. That's not me today. 'Cause I'm fine and it's okay. A cloud of rain follows me there, and I'm without a care. 'Cause I'm fine and it's okay. Said I'm fine and it's okay. Said I'm fine and it's okay. They paint their nails into their hair. They don't want to share. But I'm fine and it's okay. Bite my nails and look away. Never meant to say, but I'm fine and it's okay.